My fiancé laughed and said, "I put peanuts in your dinner to prove you're faking your allergy. You're just picky." As my throat tightened and I realized I could barely breathe, I sent her one text, "Call 911. She didn't. I ended up calling myself and then, while struggling to stay conscious, I scooped some of the food into a plastic bag to give to the paramedics as evidence. Later that night, I filed a police report for assault with a deadly weapon. When the police walked into the ER waiting room and arrested her in front of everyone, that was 18 months ago. I'm finally writing all of this down now because, for the first time, I feel ready to tell the whole story from start to finish. I'm 29 now. At the time of all this, I was 27 or 28, engaged to my fiancée Lisa, who was 27. Notice I said was engaged. We were together for 2 years, engaged for 4 months, and our wedding was already booked for the following spring. The date was chosen, deposits were paid, save the dates sent out. Our parents were involved. The plans were in motion. That life is gone now. Here's the most important thing you need to know before anything else. I have a severe peanut allergy, not a mildly itchy allergy, not a my stomach hurts a bit allergy. It is the kind where my throat closes and I can't breathe. If I don't get help quickly, I can die. I was diagnosed at age 6 after I ate something with peanuts at a kid's birthday party and almost died. Since then, I have carried an EpiPen everywhere. I know my triggers, I know the risks, and I am very careful. From the day I met Lisa, I was open about it. On our first few dates, when food came up, I explained. I'm extremely allergic to peanuts. I always need to know what's in my food. I carry an EpiPen. It's serious. She nodded, seemed completely understanding. She told me her cousin had a bad shellfish allergy, so she said she understood that allergies can be life-threatening. She said all the right things. Of course I'll be careful. Just tell me what's safe and what's not. I get it, it's serious. Back then, I believed her. For a while, things seemed fine. We dated, we laughed. We had the usual relationship ups and downs. We went out to restaurants. I always checked ingredients and asked waiters about peanuts. She saw how I lived with it. At first, her reactions were neutral. Then slowly, they started to change. We would go out to eat, and when I asked the server, "Hey, does this dish have any peanuts or peanut oil?" I began to notice little things from Lisa. A sigh today and I rolled at a tight, annoyed smile. One night, after I double-checked a dish and decided not to order it, she muttered, "You're being so dramatic." I tried to shrug it off. I thought, maybe she's just tired. Maybe she doesn't get how bad it is yet. I didn't want to start a fight over it, so I let it go. I told myself it was a one-time thing. But it wasn't. About 6 months before the peanut incident, we were having dinner at her parents' house. Her mom had made Thai food. Thai food is often made with peanuts or peanut sauces, so I was extra careful. I politely asked her mom, "This looks really good. Do you know if there's any peanut or peanut oil in the sauce?" Before her mom could answer, Lisa laughed and said, "He's paranoid about food. He always thinks there's peanuts in everything." She said it like a joke, like I was just being silly. Then she added, "He uses his allergy as an excuse to be picky." I immediately corrected her. "No, I'm not being picky. I actually have a medical condition. I can't eat peanuts. It can send me to the hospital." Her mom took me very seriously right away. She apologized if anything wasn't clear, got out the bottles and jars, and showed me each ingredient. She went through the sauces and said things like, "Here, look, this one is soy sauce, no peanuts. This one is fish sauce. This one is chili sauce." She was very kind and understanding. I really appreciated it. But when I looked at Lisa, she wasn't thankful that I cleared it up. Instead, she looked annoyed and almost angry that I had corrected her in front of her mother. On the drive home, she exploded. She said things like, "You embarrassed me back there. You made me look bad in front of my family. You always have to make everything about your allergy." I was genuinely stunned. I said, "I just asked a basic question so I wouldn't end up in the hospital. I didn't do it to embarrass you." We argued. I told her that my allergy isn't optional. She said I was being too sensitive and over the top. Eventually, she apologized. She said she was stressed from work, that she had a headache, that she didn't mean it. I accepted the apology. I moved on. I wish I hadn't. Because after that, it became a pattern. From that point forward, she made little digs about my allergy more and more often. At restaurants, she would order dishes with peanut sauce, offer me a bite, act annoyed when I refused and reminded her about my allergy. She would say things like, "You're so difficult. You act like you're the only person with allergies. You make such a big production out of it." Some of her friends picked up on her attitude and started making jokes too. One called me high maintenance at a party because I checked the ingredients of a dessert. Lisa laughed along with them. She didn't defend me. She didn't say, "Hey, it's serious." She just watched me squirm. Slowly, this started to mess with my head. I began questioning myself. Am I really overreacting? Am I making too big a deal of this? Am I somehow annoying or controlling without realizing it? But every time I thought that, I would remember. I almost died as a child. I have medical records, allergy tests, doctor's notes. This is not something I made up for attention. Still, her constant comments chipped away at my confidence. About 2 months before the big event, she brought home takeout for us. She was in a good mood and said, "I got us dinner. Pad Thai. You'll love it." I took the container and, as always, checked the label. Right there in the ingredient list. Peanuts. I handed it back and said, I can't eat this. It has peanuts. Immediately, she got angry. Trace amounts won't kill you. You're being ridiculous. I calmly explained. No, they really can. That's what severe means. I can't risk even a small amount. She said I was dramatic and obsessed with my allergy. Then she sat down and ate it in front of me while I made myself a simple sandwich. Looking back, this was a huge red flag. A screaming siren-level red flag. She was minimizing my medical condition, ignoring my repeated explanations, getting angry at me for protecting my own life. I should have ended the relationship right then. But I didn't. Why? Because life was tangled together by that point. We had already sent out save the dates. Deposits were paid to vendors. Our families were involved and excited. We were in the middle of wedding planning. I told myself, it's just arguments about food. Relationships have problems. We can work through this. I realize now that was a huge mistake. A week or two before the peanut incident, she started excitedly talking about our honeymoon. She said she wanted us to go to Thailand. Now, traveling to a country where peanuts are very common in food is not impossible for someone with an allergy, but it is risky and takes careful planning. I would have to communicate my allergy clearly in another language, research places ahead of time, carry extra medication, be on ultra-high alert all the time. So I said, I don't know if Thailand is the best idea for me. A lot of their food has peanuts or peanut oil. It could be really risky. She did not react with concern. She reacted with anger. You're ruining everything. You're using your allergy to control where we go. That word, control, hit me hard. As if my life-threatening medical condition was just a strategy to manipulate her. We had a huge fight. I told her, if you can't take my allergy seriously, then we have a real problem. This isn't a game. This isn't about control. This is about whether I stay alive. She shot back with, people with real allergies don't make such a big deal out of it. So now, apparently, my very real doctor-diagnosed allergy was not real because I was too careful. Again, the next day, she apologized. She said she'd been talking to her sister, who told her that I was probably just anxious about food, not truly allergic. Her sister supposedly said that adults can have anxiety that feels like allergies. I told Lisa, I've had this allergy since I was 6. I have 23 years of medical records. This is not anxiety. This is proven. I have been in the hospital because of it. I have medical tests. This is not in my head. Lisa seemed to back down. She said, okay, I believe you. Let's move on. I wanted to believe that too. I wanted to think we were finally past this argument. We weren't. Now we get to the night everything truly exploded. I came home from work around 6:30 p.m. I was tired, just ready to relax, eat, and watch something. Lisa was in the kitchen and smiled when I came in. She said, I made dinner. She told me she'd made spaghetti with meat sauce. This was one of my safe meals. She had made it many times before. No peanuts, no problem. I relaxed a bit. We sat down at the table. I started eating. The first bite tasted a little different, slightly sweeter than usual, but I thought, maybe she changed the recipe, added some sugar or something. I took a second bite, then a third. By bite 3, my mouth was tingling in that familiar, terrifying way. By bite 4, my tongue felt thick and my throat felt tight. I put my fork down. Lisa, what did you put in this sauce? She barely looked up from her phone. The usual. Tomatoes, garlic, meat, herbs. Why? My throat was getting worse. I could feel the swelling starting. Did you add anything new? Anything different from normal? She didn't even give me her full attention. She just casually said, no, same as always. I stood up, feeling the panic rising in my chest as my throat tightened more. I went to the hallway to grab my bag, where I keep my EpiPen. As I was fumbling in my bag, I heard her laugh. I turned around. She was looking at me, smiling, not with concern, but with amusement. What's wrong? She asked, smiling like this was a joke. My voice was already strained. Something's wrong with the food. She tilted her head and said, is it? Or are you just being dramatic again? At that point, I knew. This is real. This is happening. My throat was closing. My lips and tongue were swelling. Breathing was getting harder. This was not anxiety. It was not imagination. My hands were shaking as I pulled my EpiPen from my bag. You're really going to use that? Over spaghetti, she said. I didn't answer. I pulled off the cap and stabbed the EpiPen into my thigh. The adrenaline started working, giving me some ability to breathe again. But I could tell it wasn't enough. The EpiPen buys time. It doesn't cure the reaction. I knew I would still need a hospital. That's when she said it. In this weirdly calm, casual tone, she said, I put peanut butter in the sauce. Just a spoonful to prove you're faking. I stared at her, horrified. I couldn't even get words out because I was fighting to breathe. She added, see, you're not dying. You're just anxious. You always act like you'll die, but you're fine. I was absolutely not fine. My throat was still swelling, and my breathing was labored. I was dizzy. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. My voice was rough and thin, but I managed to say my address and the word anaphylaxis. The dispatcher told me an ambulance was on the way and asked me to stay on the line. I couldn't really talk anymore, so I just left the line open for a bit and then hung up so I could focus on breathing. Lisa finally started to panic a little. "What are you doing?" she asked, her confident tone starting to crack. I didn't answer her. I was focused on staying conscious. I staggered into the kitchen, grabbed a plastic sandwich bag from the drawer, and shakily spooned some of the spaghetti into it. "Why are you saving the food?" she asked, now sounding worried. I couldn't answer her. I only had one thought: this is evidence. I heard sirens getting closer. She started pacing, saying things like, "This is ridiculous. You're fine. Tell them you're okay when they get here." I shook my head. I knew if I downplayed things now, I might end up dead next time. I opened the front door just as the paramedics were coming up the steps. Two of them rushed in. One of them asked, "Are you having an allergic reaction?" "Anaphylaxis." I could barely speak, but I croaked out, "Peanut allergy. EpiPen already used." They saw my swollen throat, the EpiPen on the table, and got to work immediately. Oxygen mask over my face. Vitals checked. Questions fired at me as they started in 4. Lisa hovered nearby, trying to control the narrative. "He's okay. He's just anxious. He does this. He overreacts." One of the paramedics looked at her and said calmly, but firmly, "Ma'am, his throat is severely swollen. This is a medical emergency." As they were getting ready to move me onto the stretcher, I grabbed the plastic bag of spaghetti and held it up to them. "Evidence," I whispered through the mask. "She put peanuts in it. I'm allergic." She knew. The paramedic's expression changed immediately. He looked at Lisa, then back at me. "She put peanuts in your food knowing you're allergic?" he asked. I nodded. He took the bag and said, "We're taking this with us." Lisa panicked and said, "Don't take that. That's our dinner. This is insane. He's overreacting." They ignored her. They got me onto the stretcher and into the ambulance. Once inside, they gave me more epinephrine through the 4-dot steroids, antihistamines. One of them talked on the radio to the hospital and said something about possible intentional poisoning with known allergen. Food sample on board. The other paramedic looked at me and asked, "Do you want the police involved?" I didn't even hesitate. I nodded. "Yes," I managed to say. We reached the emergency room. The staff rushed me into a room. Nurses and doctors took over, giving more medication and monitoring my breathing and oxygen levels. After a while, my throat started to open up more. I could speak more clearly, though my voice sounded rough. A nurse asked what happened. I explained. "My fiancée knows I have a severe peanut allergy. She has seen me need an EpiPen before. She cooked dinner. She admitted she put peanut butter in the sauce to prove I was faking. I had a reaction, used my EpiPen, and called 911. The nurse's expression changed from professional neutral to very serious. "Your fiancée intentionally gave you something she knew could kill you," she said. "That is assault. Depending on the DA, it could be considered attempted murder." Hearing the words attempted murder out loud made my hands shake. It suddenly felt very real and very huge. About 20 minutes later, 2 police officers came into my room, one older woman and one younger man. They asked me to go through everything from the beginning. How long I'd had the allergy, how Lisa had reacted to it over time, the comments she made about me being dramatic and controlling, the dinner that night, her exact words about putting peanut butter in the sauce, my symptoms and what I did. They wrote down everything. The female officer asked, "Do you have any proof besides your statement? Any physical evidence?" I told her that the paramedics had the bag of spaghetti with the peanut butter in it. She left to track it down. She came back about 10 minutes later with the bag in her hand and said, "We'll send this to the lab for testing, but it smells strongly of peanut butter." I don't think there will be much doubt. They took photos of my used EpiPen.my hospital bracelet clearly listing my peanut allergy, my swollen face and neck. The male officer asked, "Do you know where Lisa is now?" I said, "She was at the apartment when I left in the ambulance." She said she was coming to the hospital. "She's been texting me." I showed them my phone. Texts from her saying she was sorry. Texts saying I was overreacting. Texts saying I was just anxious. Texts begging me not to involve the police. The officer radioed to have units watch the ER waiting room in case she showed up. They stayed with me as I gave a full, formal statement. I gave times, details, exact phrases she used, all of it. About half an hour later, the male officer stepped out to take a call. When he returned, he said, "She just walked into the waiting room. Officers are bringing her back here now. She's under arrest." My stomach dropped. I couldn't believe she actually came. I heard raised voices from the hallway a few minutes later. Lisa was yelling, "I have a right to see him. He's my fiancé." I couldn't hear everything, but I heard the officers say, "Ma'am, calm down. You are under arrest for assault with a deadly weapon. You have the right to remain silent." Her voice faded as they took her away. The female officer looked at me and said, "She's in custody. They're transporting her to the station." I just nodded. My brain felt numb. She told me, "You did the right thing pressing charges. This wasn't an accident." She admitted what she did. The doctors decided to keep me overnight. With severe allergic reactions, there can sometimes be a second wave called a biphasic reaction, so they wanted to monitor me for several hours to be safe. I eventually looked at my phone again. There were 15 missed calls from Lisa, dozens of texts. The messages went through stages. Panic and guilt. "Are you okay? Please pick up, I'm scared. I'm so sorry. Minimizing and blaming, you're overreacting. I only put a tiny bit. This isn't a big deal. My sister is right. You're using this to control me. Fear and pressure, please don't call the police. This will ruin my life. We can fix this. Don't involve anyone else. I didn't answer any of them. I silenced my phone and put it face down on the bedside table. About an hour later, a nurse came in again and said, "The police are here again with someone in custody. They want to ask you a few more questions and confirm some things." The older female cop returned and told me. They had arrested Lisa at the apartment. She had resisted and claimed I was mentally unstable. She said I imagined the allergy and reaction. But when the police mentioned the food sample, the paramedics' observations, and my medical records, Lisa eventually admitted that she did, in fact, put peanut butter into the sauce. She said she wanted to prove I was faking. The officer asked me, "Did Lisa have access to your medical records?" I said no, but I explained that. I told her about my allergy from day one. She had seen my EpiPen many times. 3 months earlier, I had a smaller reaction at a restaurant and had to use my EpiPen in front of her. The officer wrote all of that down. She said, "We're charging her with assault with a deadly weapon. In this state, intentionally exposing someone to a life-threatening allergen can count as that. The DA might add more charges, depending on how they see it." She gave me her business card and told me, "When you're discharged, you'll need to come to the station to sign the formal complaint. Call if you remember anything else." After she left, my phone rang again. It was an unknown number, so I answered. A woman's voice came through, older and angry. It was Lisa's mom. "What did you do?" she demanded. I said, "What did I do? Your daughter tried to kill me." She responded, "Don't be dramatic. She made a mistake." I said, "She admitted she put peanut butter in my food knowing I'm severely allergic." She told me while I was struggling to breathe. Her mom insisted, "You're blowing this out of proportion. She was trying to help you get over your fear. You're controlling her with your so-called allergy." I hung up. I blocked her number. 2 minutes later, my phone rang again. Lisa's sister this time. "You had her arrested? Are you serious? Are you insane?" I hung up and blocked her too. Then her dad tried to call. I didn't answer. I blocked him as well. Shortly after, a group text lit up, Lisa's friends. They wrote things like, "I can't believe you did this to her. You're destroying her life over a mistake. You're vindictive and cruel. She loves you and you put her in jail?" I left the group chat and blocked all of them. My phone was finally silent. Later that evening, a doctor came in. He said my vitals were stable, my throat swelling was going down, and I would likely be okay. They still wanted to keep me overnight, just to be safe. I texted my brother and gave him a short version of what happened. He called immediately. "She did what?" I told him everything again, this time from the beginning. He kept saying, "That's attempted murder." He asked, "Where is she now?" I said, "In jail. The police arrested her." He replied, "Good. Don't back down. No matter what her family says, do not let this go." He offered to come to the hospital, but I told him I'd see him the next day. We talked for a while. He admitted he never really liked Lisa, that something always felt off about her, but he didn't want to interfere in my relationship. We hung up, and I tried to sleep. It was hard. I kept replaying everything in my head. Her laughing, her saying, "I put peanut butter in the sauce." Her insisting I was fine while I was suffocating. Around 2 a.m., a nurse checked on me again. She asked, "Are you doing okay?" I saw some of the report. I said, "Physically, yes. Emotionally, I don't know." She said, "I'm really sorry this happened to you. A lot of people don't take allergies seriously, and it's terrifying." I appreciated that more than I expected. Someone understood that I wasn't being dramatic. The next morning around 9 a.m., the doctor cleared me to go home, or at least leave the hospital. I caught an Uber, but I didn't go back to my apartment. My brother had already told me, "Come to my place. You're not going home alone after that." First, I went to the police station to sign the formal complaint and give another detailed statement. They told me the lab results on the food would take a few days. A quick field test already showed peanut protein in the sauce. Lisa was still in custody. Her bail hearing was later that day. They asked if I wanted a restraining order. I said yes, definitely. They filed an emergency protective order and had a judge approve it quickly. Lisa was legally forbidden from contacting me or coming near me. Then I went to my brother's place. He met me at the door, hugged me, and said, "You're staying here as long as you need." No argument. I told my brother I needed to get my belongings from the apartment I shared with Lisa. He insisted on coming with me and said, "We'll get Dad and 2 of his friends. We're not letting you walk in there alone." So that afternoon, my brother, my dad, and 2 of his big, strong friends came with me. When we got there, Lisa wasn't home. The place was a mess. Clothes thrown everywhere. Dishes broken on the floor. Some of my things smashed or destroyed. It looked like she had a tantrum. We spent about 3 hours gathering all of my belongings. Clothes, important documents, personal items, electronics. Anything that was clearly mine. I left my key on the counter when we were done. The lease was in my name only. That meant I was responsible legally for the apartment, but at that point, I didn't care. I texted the landlord later and said, "I need to break the lease due to a domestic violence situation. There's a police report. I understand if there are penalties, but I can't stay there." He replied that evening and said, given the circumstances and the involvement of the police. He would waive the penalty and work with me to end the lease early. He asked if Lisa would be staying, but I told him I didn't know and didn't care. We moved my stuff to my brother's storage unit for the time being. I stayed on my brother's couch. Meanwhile, Lisa had her bail hearing. My brother checked the records online. The judge set bail at $50,000. She posted bail and was released that evening, but the restraining order was active. She wasn't allowed to contact me. That didn't stop her family. Her mom called my mom and yelled, saying I was destroying Lisa's life, that I was evil and vindictive. My mom hung up on her. Her dad called my dad and tried to argue, but my dad shut him down and told him never to call again. Lisa's friends started posting vague things online like, "Some people destroy others with lies. False accusations ruin lives. Watch out for controlling partners who weaponize the legal system." They never mentioned my name, but everyone who knew us knew who they were talking about. My friends reached out and asked what really happened. I told them the truth. She knowingly put peanuts in my food. I nearly died. She admitted it. She got arrested. That's what happened. My friends were shocked and took my side completely. Several said I could stay with them if I needed to. Next came the wedding fallout. The wedding venue called to confirm some detail. I told them, "The wedding is off. Please cancel everything." They asked if I was sure. I said yes. They mentioned the deposit, and I said I didn't care about losing it. They asked gently if something serious had happened. I explained, briefly. My fiancée intentionally tried to poison me by putting peanuts in my food. I almost died. She's facing criminal charges. The woman on the phone went quiet for a moment, then said, "Given that, we're refunding your full deposit. We don't feel right keeping it." The caterer did the same thing. So did the photographer. Apparently, word traveled fast in the local wedding business circles. None of them wanted their company associated with this story of a bride-to-be who poisoned her fiancé. Life settled into a strange new normal over the next few weeks. I stayed with my brother, I talked to my parents often, and my job was very understanding and gave me time off. After about 3 weeks, I went back to work. My boss and coworkers were supportive. They didn't pry too much. They just made it clear they were glad I was okay. About 2 weeks after the incident, there was a preliminary court hearing. I had to testify about what happened. Lisa was there with a lawyer her family had hired. She didn't look at me once. Her lawyer tried to argue that it was an accident. She didn't really know how serious it was. She thought I was exaggerating. The prosecutor pointed out. She had been told clearly for 2 years. She saw me use an EpiPen months earlier. She openly admitted she did it to prove I was faking. The food sample tested positive for peanut. The judge wasn't convinced by the defense. The case was moved forward to a full trial. Lisa started crying. Her mom glared at me from the back of the courtroom as if I was the one who had done something wrong. The trial itself took about 4 months to finally happen. There were delays, paperwork, lawyer scheduling issues, things I didn't fully understand. When the trial finally began, it lasted just 2 days. The prosecution presented the lab results showing peanut in the sauce, and my medical records going back 23 years, photos from the hospital, the paramedics' testimony about my condition, the nurse's notes about what I reported, the text from Lisa where she admitted what she did, her statement to the police admitting she added peanut butter. They painted a clear picture. She didn't accidentally put in the wrong ingredient. She knowingly added a dangerous allergen to my food. The defense tried to say I was controlling and used my allergy to control food and travel. Lisa was frustrated and wanted to help me overcome an irrational fear. She didn't truly understand that it could kill me. But my medical records destroyed that story. They showed childhood hospitalizations, allergy tests, notes from allergists, emergency room visits over the years. It was obvious this was a real, long-standing condition. The jury deliberated for about 3 hours. They came back with a verdict, guilty of assault with a deadly weapon. 2 weeks later, at sentencing, the judge gave her 3 years in prison with the possibility of serving 18 months and having the rest suspended to probation, depending on good behavior. The judge also ordered anger management and mandatory education on food allergies. Her family was furious. They yelled at the judge, shouted that she was a victim, that I ruined her life. Security had to escort them out. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt tired and relieved it was over. Lisa went to jail. I walked out of the courthouse and decided that I would not look back. That was 18 months ago. Lisa served her time and got out last month. As far as I know, she has not contacted me. She is not allowed to ever. The protective order is now permanent. She cannot call me, text me, email me, come near my home or workplace. If she does, she can be arrested again. Her family still posts things online sometimes, vague messages about false accusations, evil men, and destroyed lives. In their story, I'm the villain who sent their innocent daughter to jail. But I know what really happened. So does the medical staff who treated me, the paramedics who saw my reaction, the police who took her statement, the prosecutor, the judge, the jury. She knowingly put a life-threatening allergen into my food, laughed while I struggled to breathe, and told me I was fine and just anxious. I'm alive today because I trusted my body and my experience. I used my EpiPen. I called 911. I kept a sample of the food as evidence. I didn't let her or her family bully me into dropping it. Am I sad that the relationship ended like this? Of course. I wish the person I loved had been who I thought she was. I wish it had never gone this far. But I'm also deeply grateful. I'm alive. I got out before marrying someone who would gamble with my life to win an argument. I learned to trust myself, my health, and my instincts. In the end, that's what matters most. I survived.